Okay, moving on to ordinances and resolution, item number 5, resolution to establish a May 31st Memorial Committee. Authorize the city manager to solicit proposals from 2 third-party consultants and transfer $115,000 from the general fund reserved for contingencies in FY 2020-21 Cultural Fields operating budget, rate establishment, and dedicate a permanent memorial. Do we have speakers?
Yes, sir. The first speaker is Barbara Messner. After Ms. Messner, and Jason Nixon will be the second speaker. Ms. Messner?
Somebody's helping me get something ready. Thank you. Okay, this isn't the first time you've talked about a memorial committee and misusing tragedy funds for other items, including real estate and employee salaries. And the fact that nothing's been done is a horrible insult to all the victims and their families. And not one of you showed up for the first anniversary to pay your respects. So I'm a third-party consultant to pay taxpayer money. $115,000 is outrageous. And on the financing, I asked Mr. Ramias about audits. I haven't seen any lately. We still have $2.4 million loan to a private nonprofit that's never built anything in the Princess Anne District. So you need to honor, respect, and remember, and let the victim families decide what type of memorial and where they want it. You don't need to spend money. It's their families, and we support what they want. And these are the victim families. You didn't even have their names before. And Mr. Cox, you still don't have a sign for him at the post office. Mr. Rapp, Kate Nixon, Alexander Gusev, Missy Langer, Mary Louise Gale, Robert Bobby Williams, Tara Welch Gallagher, Mr. Nettleton, Joshua Hardy, he was another one of the, Joshua Hardy and Kate Nixon were some of the heroes. You honor other people, but not the heroes. Lakita Brown, Ryan Keith Cox, and Mr. Snelling. So, thank you.
Next speaker is Jason Nixon.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you for having me up here. I'm all for the memorial. We've talked about it. I've sat down with Lauren Heath. We discussed it. I don't think we need consultants. I don't think that we need to know a memorial how Ohio did it or how Texas did it. You know, they did theirs in 6 months. It's been 2 years almost. We need to get a memorial up and going. I have an idea on how to do it. I've approached Lauren and we discussed it. We need to have self-identity. That's what Virginia Beach is. We don't need someone from out of the town, out of state, coming in and telling us how to do a memorial. I wanted to do the King Neptune with the smashed churls on the ground of 12 pieces because it represents several things. First, it represents the way Virginia Beach got rocked that day. That was our 9/11. Second, it represents the 12 victims that were killed that day. The 12 pieces on the ground represent the 12 victims died. Third, it represents the 12 families that were shattered that day. It's a perfect memorial. I'd like to have a clamshell walk around it with each individual person and an accolade saying what they're remembered for. Their loved ones can go there and memorize for them, memorialize it. My children would love something like that. My first option was to tear down Building 2. It's hallowed ground. How could you put a police station, a headquarters, in that building? I don't think any cop, any police officer in the world wants to walk through those hallways listening to cell phones go off. Because that's all they did. And they get PTSD. They're all messed up. I've talked to several cops about it. Honestly, you guys don't need $115,000 to hire consultants. Why? Is Virginia Beach not capable, professional enough to do this? My wife was a civil engineer with a PE. Do you think the other civil engineers in Building 2 would make that feel like it was an honor for them to help design and construct a represented memorial that, it has feeling, it's somber, and it's tragic, because that's what happened. We had a tragic day that day, and we cannot forget any of this. I don't care about the tourism. I don't care about any of this stuff you guys want to keep putting money into. Do this first. This is Virginia Beach. This is our 9/11. Nobody else's. We don't need outside people coming in and getting paid consultant fees. That's not what we're about. Why can't we come up with our own plans? I mean, the city manager, you're a PE, right? You're not a PE? Okay, well, professional engineering degree, it takes a lot to get it. Those people work their butts off to get those things. The city employees got their raises taken away. Why? Their families depend on that. My family depended on that when Kate was alive. It's not right that y'all do that. Take the money and give it to them. But let's build a memorial. The money's there. I guess my time's up. I could speak for 2 hours, honestly. And actually, I'm going to testify tomorrow in the Senate. So, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.
The next speaker is via WebEx, Debbie Barato. Ms. Barato, if you would pause 2 to 3 seconds before beginning your comments.
Yes. Hi, I am here. First of all, this is my first opportunity to speak to anybody. I've emailed hundreds of emails, which you all know, and without any replies, obviously. I would like to ask a question, if that's appropriate. The $115,000, does that include the complete construction and finished product of the permanent memorial?
Ms. Barato, this is an opportunity for public comment. If you would like to continue your comments, thank you.
So you don't want me to ask a question? With that being said, obviously that just proves once again how disrespected we are as family members. None of the Virginia government has recognized us. You treat us as the criminals, and we are not the criminals. The criminals are inside that building. We all know it. The facts are there. It's just putting them out there. I don't agree with $115,000 when families can be the ones to provide ideas. You're spending money that is unnecessary. According to what I'm seeing, you're already $300 billion or $3 billion in debt, which is ridiculous. I don't live there. I'm not a resident, so that's not a concern of mine. My concern is the permanent memorial and families being treated, as you said, Mayor, in the beginning, with respect. And I have yet to hear the word transparency or see transparency since the day of May 31st that you promised.
Mayor, the only other speaker is Lauren Heath, and she was questions only. So I'm not sure if you all have questions for Ms. Heath.
Any questions for Ms. Heath?
No additional speakers, sir.
I usually, withhold my comments to last, but I think it's important for Mr. Nixon, Ms. Barato, and the other families to know. Over the past year plus, I've been involved in the discussions of the memorial. And if I could explain that, at the anniversary of the memorial, due to the COVID, we had to put restrictions on attendance because we didn't know how many people were going to come up. And we did our best to put together a heartfelt, sincere, empathetic tribute to the victims and their families. Yes, the events of 5/31 of 2019 rocked the foundation of this city, especially with the families, the victims, and all the people that were in the building at the time. It's a day we'll never forget. But having been involved in a lot of the discussions subsequent about the memorial, we wanted to give some time for healing of the families. And I know it's tough because every family, during time of tragedy responds differently. And but we wanted to give it a fair amount of time because we really thought that it was essential to have the participation of the families involved. And this is not making an excuse, Jason, or to any other of the families, but the COVID has thrown roadblocks into many, many things that this city has done in terms of things we would like to do, and it just slowed down a lot of things. But perhaps, we didn't want to make any decisions going forward until we felt it was appropriate to approach the families going forward. And perhaps one of the considerations may be, maybe several recognitions, but we're building a new building next door. But we didn't want to presuppose that something would go in there yet because we didn't want to poll the families yet. So we got some decisions. It's going to be an open book, and it's going to be an inclusive process. And unfortunately, given the emotions and magnitude of this and all of the people involved, we're going to try to do this in the best, most caring and empathetic way. But the one thing I will tell you that, from the perspective I've seen that, this city intends to embrace the victims and their families and all concerned in perpetuity. And if it weren't for the COVID, my guess we would be ahead of where we are right now. But, we're dealing with a reality. We had to deal with the reality on 5/31. But once again, if I can give you my assurance, and I think I can speak on behalf of this body, that we are with you. And we feel your grief individually, and we share your grief as a city. And going forward, we intend to do that with dignity and inclusion. So I hope you don't mind me sticking in, and forgive me for going first. But does any other council person have an observation? Okay, at this point, do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Could we call for the vote, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Abbott?
Aye.
Councilmember Berlucci?
Aye.
Councilmember Henley?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Moss?
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse is absent. Councilmember Tower?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Wooten?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wood?
Aye.
Mayor Dyer?
Aye.
By a vote of 10 to 0, you have approved resolution number 5, establish a May 31st Memorial Committee, etc.